culture and language study group. I wasn't at the first one. I had a little car trouble, but I did make it last month, and it kind of looks like, except for me and David and Joe and Jeremy, kind of maybe a different group here. Were you all here last month? Yeah. So that's how this thing is, you know, seems to have its own life, because different people come and I will say this, and I'll admit this, David and I are both guilty. We didn't drum it up this month like we did last month. And I've been busy with the campaign, and David, I'm sure, has been busy. He's been out on the road and different things, but hopefully next month we'll get another big group back here. But this is fine. It's fine. I mean, a good, effective group shouldn't have over 20 people in its classroom, but you know, we always welcome 30, 35 people, and that's fine. But I did get a phone call on the way up here, and they said, Edwin, we were coming, but my daughter came in from Texas, and they're only going to be here tonight. And we just, you know, we were taking them out to dinner. I understand that. You know, there's things that come up. And there for a little bit, I thought I wasn't going to make it here. I was coming up I-40, and the inside lane on I-40 up there by Choctaw exit, boy, that thing is bad. The bike ran me off the road. There was waves on the road like that. And the traffic was pretty heavy, but I made it all right, and I'm certainly glad to be here, and I'm delighted to see all of you here. Like I said, some of you, Scotty, Marcia, and Stephanie, I've never met, but we've been friends on Facebook. Mr. Bruner, and nice to meet you. By the way, I always, that's the way Indians, that's how we get acquainted. Where are your Bruner folks from?
My dad is. We have some land down in Lamar.
Lamar, yeah, I know. See, there's Lamar Bruners, and then there's Henrietta Bruners, and some good Lamar Bruners. Who's your dad?
Joe Bruner.
Joe Bruner.
Joe Wallace, yeah.
Oh, Joe Wallace. Oh, yeah, I know Joe. Of course. What's her name?
Rachel.
Rachel. That's my first cousin.
Oh, okay. Rachel, yeah.
She's my first cousin. Joe Wallace. And what is your name?
Neil Previtt.
Neil Previtt. Were you here last time? Okay, well, it's great to have you here. Are you Muskogee Creek? Great, great. And you know, we'll be doing that every month. I think we'll see different faces from time to time. And I know that we try to make it every time we can, but we can't always do it. But if you can, you know, it's consistent that way. So obviously, since most of you weren't here last time, you don't have the primary sheet I handed out, which is the Muskogee alphabet. And that's what I want to do every month, is I want to go over the alphabet before we do anything. But the rest of you guys, you brought your copy, didn't you, Joe? All right, David.
Yeah, I got mine on my phone.
Oh, on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, could you hear me? Oh, we got it in your head. All right. Hey, you're good. By the way, for those of you that don't know, I was also involved in the coordination of a Muskogee only hymn singing convention earlier this month down in Wetumpka. Jeremy videoed it. It's on YouTube. So if y'all get a chance to, it's called 2015 Muskogee Hymn Singing Convention. It's Mvskoke. It's 4 hours and 8 minutes long, and Jeremy did an awesome job of recording that. From the very start, when we first blew the horn, all the way to the last handshake of the prayer at the end of the evening. What you didn't get to see was all of the networking and socializing, and you didn't film any of the watermelon eating, did you?
No.
We took a little break there and then served watermelon. It was, I think, 103 degrees that day. It was hot. I'll tell you what, people stuck it out. We had a great time. It was under the church arbor. But it was just like in the old days. You know, that's the way they did back then. And we had a great time. And but during the evening, it's about like this. I guess maybe it wasn't quite this late, obviously. But when we broke and we had the big round handshake, I'll tell you, there was, man, you talk about spiritual, there was people crying, so they didn't realize it could be like that. And some of them had witnessed that before when they were younger kids, but they felt the spirit of our elders and those people that have gone on before us was right there, because that's how that thing works. And so it was just awesome. And Jeremy, once again, your brother did a great job. I appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I've got some handouts here. I assumed that we would have new people, so I did last month we did a lesson on, we use words for food, different kinds of food. First sheet is the alphabet and the pronunciation. The second sheet is, today we're going to do days of the week, the months, names of the months, and the seasons. It's, for some people, they might consider it kind of primary, but actually this is an exercise in the use of the language more than anything. There's a lot to be discussed about the names too, of the days of the week and the months and the seasons. And so we're going to go over that this evening. We're not going to push a lot of information at any one time or in any class because it's a learning process. And if you want to learn, you got to learn at a pace that you can learn at and not push you. I'm a big proponent of phonetics. For those of you that are my friends on Facebook on the Muskogee Word of the Day, I think that's one of the redeeming factors or redeeming aspects of that language page, and I get the most compliments, is you can spell a word, but unless you have the phonetics, you don't know how to pronounce it. I don't use a lot of videos because I just don't have the time, but if I had the time, we would use videos, which obviously would be the easiest. But so phonetics to me makes it more usable, user-friendly. So let's get on the first page there. Let's go back over the alphabet. Last month when I taught this class, I told you a little bit about my own background. And my background is that I was born in an Indian hospital in Tallahassee, but I was raised in my grandparents' home in Wetumpka, or out east of Wetumpka in the country. And it was a multi-family dwelling. My grandfather built it in 1939. It was a 2-story log home, and it belonged to my grandpa and grandma. My mom, through necessity, even though we lived like 6 miles from town, back in those days, there wasn't a lot of transportation. We didn't have transportation, so on Sunday evenings, my mom would go to Wetumpka and stay with my aunt from Sunday night through Friday evening, because she worked at home at a sewing plant, and she had to catch a ride. So she would stay with my aunt and my uncle and catch a ride through the weekend, and Friday evening they would bring her home, and she'd be home all weekend. As a young child, it was a little bit devastating for your mom to go away on Sunday evenings and knowing that you weren't going to see her for a few days. And of course, like a little bedroom baby, I'd cry, and my little sister cried. All in all, once they were gone, we would just settle right in with my grandpa and grandma. I just loved it dearly. But the primary language in our home was Muskogee. My grandpa was a great orator. He was a preacher. Before that, he was a speaker at the ceremonial ground before I was born. But he converted and became a preacher, so he was a natural orator. He not only spoke for them, but he was also a speaker for the tribal town. My grandpa provided testimony in Senate subcommittee hearings on Indian affairs back in the 1940s. He was very fluent in both the English and the Creek language. And being a speaker of Muskogee in the ceremonial grounds, he knew the traditional way to speak. And he also knew the modern, I guess, the religious, neo-religious preaching. So he spoke in different tones of voice, and I kind of caught on that. By the way, he was a medicine man, too. It was rather unique. These days it would be rather unique, but it was more common back in those days. Baptist minister, medicine man, orator. And so, having said that, I learned my first language was Muskogee Creek. My grandmother, his wife, never spoke a sentence of English. Never spoke one sentence. She knew words. If you'd say, "Grandma, what do you want to drink?" she'd say, "Orange pop." Or something like that. But as far as putting a sentence together, she didn't care to. She didn't want to. She didn't need to. When we go to town, she'd tell us what she wanted. She could convey a message to my grandpa or my mom or us. And so if
we go to the store or something, you know, they did all the talking if they needed to. She used to make me laugh by the way that she used our language, because, you know, there's some words in English you don't have in Creek. So we would maybe go to the cafe and sit down to eat. And we'd say, Grandma, now you're home, Scott. Grandma, where you going to eat? And she looked at the menu and, cheese palabra, which was cheeseburger, you know, it's corrupted English. Cheese palabra, because there's no Creek word for it. And I thought it was kind of funny, you know, but as I grew older, it was real funny, because she used a lot of, as a matter of fact, our whole family, we had a lot of words for some things that, you know, we just made up for ourselves. It was just in our home. But having said that, one of the benefits, or one of the greatest things that ever happened to me is my grandmother was a reader of the Muskogee language. She could read and write. Of course, she spoke it, but she could read and write fluently. And she taught that to me when I was just a little bitty kid, 3, 4 years old. And so I could read and write Muskogee. She taught me the alphabet. She taught me, gave me Creek songbooks and said, here, read this, and Creek Bible, and I would read those. And really, that's the only thing there is to read in Creek, because everything is religious tracts and Bibles and stuff. My grandpa wrote letters regarding his Indian medicine. When he'd write to his patients, he would write them in Creek, or write to other ministers, he'd write them in Creek. And so he would, I would see his letters and I'd see the way he wrote. I learned to do that. And then as I got closer to school age, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I started socializing more with the kids at church, and some of them lived in the cities, you know, Oklahoma City or Tulsa, but they come down on the weekend and go to church. And they spoke English quite a bit. And so out of necessity, I spoke English with them. But that's the only time I spoke English, was when we went up to the church house. When I got close to being school age, my grandmother sold her allotment, and she had a house built in town, so that we wouldn't have to ride a school bus and stand out in the cold weather. And so she had a house built in town. We moved to town, and you know how those old folks are, they're pretty traditional. Grandpa, he was kind of like you remember Ma and Paul Kettle when they had that new house built? Paul Kettle would move out of that old house. That's where my grandpa was. He stayed down at the old house. And we went down there all the time when we lived in town. But my grandma had that house built so we wouldn't have to ride school buses or stand out in the cold weather. So we moved to town. We moved 1 block away from my dad's mother, my other grandma. She was a white lady. My grandmother was white. And so I would go and visit her, and she wanted me to, but I said she was white. She went to an Indian church, and everything about her was Indian. She spoke Creek, she cooked Indian, she was a woman's leader at the Kentucky Indian Methodist Church, but she was a white woman. For all intents and purposes, she was an Indian. Well, she was intent on me learning how to read and write in English, since I could do it in Creek. So when I was 5 years old, she sat me down in the newspaper and taught me how to read and write English. So when I started school in the 1st grade, I was reading and writing in 2 languages. Now, having said that, these guys all heard that story last month, but I wanted you to hear it too. I saw that there was a difference. There's a difference in when you speak Creek and you speak English. There's even a difference in the way you think. Marcia can probably relate to this because she knows some of the language. When you say phrases in Creek, it's almost a different mindset that you use. And so that's why you can tell a joke in English or Creek that's funny. But if you told that same joke in Creek, it doesn't sound funny at all. But because it's a different way of thinking when you're speaking. And it's the same way when you say your words. When we go over this alphabet, I'm fixing to do that right now, you'll notice that there's a little different way of pronouncing things than in the English. They're similar. This is based on the Latin English or the English alphabet, but there's some letters missing because they're not necessary in Greek. Let's go over those right quick. Listen to the way I say it, because they don't sound just like the English. So when I say these words, I'm going to say them, and or when I say these alphabets, I'm going to say them, and I want you to follow me. And we'll start with the letter A, okay? And I want everybody to hear yourself say that. So when I say it, I want you to repeat. Ah. Say it again. Ah.
Ah.
Chi.
Chi.
Notice I didn't say chi. I said chi, kind of almost a T-S-E-E, but it's still got a little bit of a C-H. It's specifically Creek or Muskogee. G.
Chi.
E.
E.
P. P.
E.
A. It's almost that cross between A and I. It's A. P. Okay, once again, notice I didn't breathe that K. I didn't say key. I said key, almost withholding your breath when you said key. Lee. Me. Knee. O. I didn't say O, I said O. And that's where that Muskogee pronunciation comes in. O, B, C, very, very important letter right there. C looks like R. If you see it written, you're tend to want to say R, but it's not. There is no R in the Muskogee language. Okay? It's C, that's our symbol for it. C, and there is no sound in the English language like C. Here's a little trick I showed the class last week, or last month. It's almost like T-H-E-E. B, say that. B, B. Notice how the top of your tongue connects to your front teeth. B, you put your tongue on your front teeth and then you release the air, make the noise, and it says B. The difference with this letter is you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Up on the top roof of your mouth, let the air out of the sides of your tongue. C. Now this is a learned sound. You have to exercise this. When you take these back with you, take it home and exercise that. C. Let the air out of the sides of your tongue. So I'm going to say it one more time and I'll say it with me. C. Move on. C. D. U. We. And ye. Okay, those are how you pronounce those. Some of these consonants make a hard and soft sound. Let me give you an example. The first consonant there is chi. The second alphabet, chi. That can also make, that's the soft sound. It can make a hard sound too. G. If you said chisi, that makes a soft sound. It means mouse. Chisi. C-E-S-S-E. But if you use it within the word, between two vowels, let me use this word. H-V-C-E. Hudgy. Hudgy. Say that word. Hudgy. Okay. Notice that word makes the hard sound like a J. Hudgy. Hudgy means tail. Okay. If it sits at the front of the letter, it makes a soft sound. Or if it sits next to another consonant, it makes a soft sound. But if it sits alone, it makes a hard sound. Chisi and hudgy make two different sounds. Same way with the next consonant. Fee. If you said F-E-K-C-E, that's Fikchi. Fikchi. That means intestines. Fikchi. It says it first of the word. But if you said H-V-F-E, that's Hovey. Hovey. Notice it makes a V sound instead of an F, soft F. Next consonant is E, but it always makes the E sound. H, soft H. K, E. That makes let's say Kasapi, that means cold, Kasapi. The first of that makes a soft sound. If you spell W-I-K-V-S, that says Vegas. Notice it makes a G, hard G sound instead of the K sound. Cut and gut. And so on. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but that's how those consonants work. Consonants can usually make two sounds, a soft sound and a hard sound, with the exception of H. T, for example, makes a D sound. What'd you bring us, Kissy?
Brisket.
Brisket?
It's cold, but we can microwave it.
I might snack on it later. We just finished eating. All right. Thanks for bringing it. Did you get a handout? So what we're going to do here is we're going to go over the alphabet, only I'm not going to say it and you follow me. We're going to say them together this time, okay? And then we'll move on. Y'all ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. A, Chi, E, Fi, Hi, I, Ki, Li, Mi, Ni, O, P, Q, C, T, U, We, Yi. That's how we pronounce the alphabet. They don't always make that exact sound when used in the word, but it's just like the English alphabet. K, the letter K, you say K, but in the sound it says K. So those are just names of the alphabets that you see next to it. There's examples of the word and how it's used. A as in ayo, which means hawk. Chi as in chunky, which means long. E as in weasel, as in sassafras, etc. It goes on back to the line. When you take that home, study those words, study those letters, study those phonetics, and that'll help you a whole lot. And just try to memorize them kind of like a rhyme. That's what I did when I was a little kid. I memorized them like a rhyme. A, T, E, B, E, A, D, B, B, E, O, B, G, C, D, U, A, V, E. It's just like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just a matter of memorizing them like a rhyme. So take that home, practice those, and let's move on to the next page. David, is there a time constraint?
No.
Okay. Real quickly, before we move on, I thought I'd do something. Another aspect of, we're not just here to learn about language, we're here to learn about culture as well. So, culture, part of our culture is, we're like a lot of native tribes. We have storytelling just like a lot of the tribes do. And our storytelling is similar to what the English call Aesop's fables. They have, what's the word I'm looking for? They have morals to a story. A lot of times those stories are told to the little children to teach them values and things like that. So I thought today I'd throw in a little story or two. And I thought y'all might enjoy that. So at this time, before we start the next page, I'm going to tell you a story that I was told a long time ago. It's about dogs. You know, at one time, according to our legends, animals had a lot of human characteristics. Animals could talk, they could converse with one another, and sometimes they took on human characteristics. And so there was a time when animals could speak with one another. And one time the rabbit, and the rabbit is always known as the trickster in a lot of cultures. He was the same way in Muskogee culture. He liked to lie, and he liked to play tricks. So you had to watch out for the rabbit. He's a good guy, but he's really sociopathic in a way. So one day, at one time, the rabbit and the dog, they were real good friends. They're not these days, but back in the day, they were real good friends. And there was rabbit and dog, and at one time, dog didn't have a big mouth like he does now. Dog had a little mouth, little round hole in the front of his snout. And dog could whistle. He could whistle, the most beautiful whistle. He whistled. He was the only animal except the birds that could whistle. And all the animals really coveted his whistling abilities. He could whistle songs, and all the animals loved to hear him. The raccoons and the bears, and so they loved to hear dog whistle. And so he would walk around whistling all the time, and all the animals, and even the birds sometimes would stop and listen to him because he could whistle so beautiful. So one day he was walking down the road with a rabbit, and they didn't have anything to do. They were kind of bored walking down the road, and the dog started whistling, and the rabbit was listening to him. And he said, "Dog," he said, you whistle really beautiful." He said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "All of our friends, they like to hear you whistle." He said, "Yeah." He said, "But you know what?" He said, "I can only hear you so far away. And when you whistle, it's so beautiful that people all over the country should be able to hear you whistle." He said, dog said, "You think so?" He said, "Yeah." Rabbit said, "And I know how to make that happen." Dog said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want to whistle real loud where everybody can hear you?" And dog said, "Well, yeah." Because, dog, he had a little bit of an ego about his whistling. He knew everybody liked it. He knew it was pretty. So rabbit said, "Yeah, I can fix it where you can whistle so loud that you can, everybody for miles can hear you." And dog said, "Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want." Rabbit said, "Okay." So he said, "Are you ready?" And the dog said, "Yeah." So rabbit reached in his pocket, pulled out a pocket knife, took his pocket knife out. He said, "Now this is just going to hurt just for a little bit." He said, "But when I finish," he said, "you'll be able to whistle so loud." Dog said, "All right." So rabbit reached up, and he just said, dog just had that little hole in the front. He reached back here to the side of his snout, and he cut one side all the way to that hole in his mouth. The dog said, "Oh, that hurts." He said, "Okay, I know." He said, "But it won't hurt long." So he said, "Let me do the other side." So he turned around, and the dog let him cut the other side of his snout from the side all the way to the hole in his mouth. And the dog said, "Oh man, that's sore." He said, "Yeah, but," he said, "it's going to be worth it." He said, "Because everybody's going to hear your beautiful whistle." So he said, "But wait a minute." The dog said, "You ready?" He said, No. Rabbit said, "No." He said, "I got big long ears, more than anybody else. I have big ears." He said, "It don't hurt my ears if I'm standing this close to you." He said, "You see that hill way over there?" He said, "I'm going to run over there to that hill. When I wave at you, I'll be ready." He said, "When you whistle, everybody in the country is going to hear you. So you wait till I run over there and wave at you." Dog said, "Okay." So rabbit took off, jumped down the road. Dog saw him go down the hill, come back up, and there he was, sitting on top of the other hill. And rabbit reached up and looked at him and waved, and that was the signal. So dog took a big deep breath. And he said, "If I'm going to whistle loud, it's going to take a lot of air." So then he took another big deep breath, even more. And he filled his lungs all up. And he let it out. And whoa! Shook his head. Thought, what in the world is that? So he took another deep breath and and he thought, something's wrong. And when he looked at that rabbit was laying over there on that hill on his back and rubbing his belly and just laughing hard as he could because he had played a big trick on the dog. And he was rolling and laughing when the dog figured out what the rabbit had done to him and played a trick on him. He got mad at the rabbit and he took off chasing that rabbit. And to this day, that's why a dog chases rabbit. And to this day, that's why a dog likes to hear you whistle at him. Humans whistle. When they whistle to them, they come running because they used to whistle themselves and they know that. So they love that whistle sound. So I just thought I'd throw that in there for you, something for you to tell your kids, something to, just another story in your repertoire of your own stories. I know some of you teach your children some of those kind of things. But, the moral to that story is it's always not best to want everything. We don't have everything in our lives. We may not be the richest people. We may not have the most possessions. But be happy with what you got because sometimes it's exactly what you need. Just like that dog's whistle. He had exactly what he needed, but he got a little greedy. So let his ego get to it. So that's something my grandpa told me when I was a little boy, and I just wanted to share that with you all. All right. You guys think of other things like that? Other stories maybe that you've been told by your parents or grandparents, or you've heard other elders tell stories like that, or you remember those kind of things? No? City kids. And I guess that's another thing. I was fortunate to get to hear the elders because that's all I was around when I was with my grandpa. Elders. They sit around under the shade of the church after dinner and tell stories, or sometimes on weekdays they'd come to visit and they'd sit outside and tell each other stories, or sometimes at nighttime. And he taught me many stories like that, and I'll tell you another one later when we finish. Let's move on to the next page. I told you last month we talked about food items and food terms, and talked about Chattahoochee, Saltfield, Muskogee, all that kind of stuff, Muskogee. This month I thought we would talk about months, days of the week, and seasons of the year. The Muskogee language is a descriptive language. A lot of our words mean something else. They refer to something. And so a lot of our words for the months and the days are the same way. So I'm going to start, we're going to start with months of the year, and we're going to start with January. What we know in English as January is Fultz. Can you all say that? Fultz means winter. Favo means winter. Fultz means winter's younger brother. It's not considered the primary winter month, but it's the month after December, which means big winter. But January is Fultz. February is Udali Hasi. Let's all say that. Udali Hasi. Look at your phonetics. Udali Hasi. Okay, Udali means wind. Hasi means month. Okay? In English, they say March is the wind month. But in Muskogee, February is what we call the wind month. March in Muskogee is Dazatchuji. Look at the phonetics. It's all said together. Dazatchuji. And that means little spring. Uji, on the end of the word, what do they call that? When on the end of the word it's a suffix. When you see uji on the end of a word, it means little. Sometimes we use English words and we kind of corrupt them and use them for Muskogee. See her holding Biboji, which is baby, little baby, Biboji. Uji means little. Daza Chuji means little spring. April is Dazachi Mako. Emphasis on that H on March and April. Daza Chuji, Dazachi, Dazachi Mako. See that R? Remember what I said about pronouncing that R? Flako. Let's all say it. Dazachi Flako. Dazachi Flako. Big spring. May is Huzzy. Huzzy. Let's all say that. Huzzy. Means mulberries. It's a real, that's the shortest word in the Muskogee language, I think. Means mulberries. It's long in English, but mulberry month is Huzzy. And it is. May is when the mulberries get ripe. Notice that we relate the names of our months sometimes to events in that month. Like when the wind blows, when it's winter time. The next one is June. And guess what ripens in June? Blackberries. The word for June is Huzzy. Let's all say that. Huzzy. Blackberry month. Next month is July. July, it's little heat. And the way we say that is, somebody say it. Say it again, David. Hayuji. See that uji? That means little again. That means little heat. Hayuji. The next month is August. Ayo Flako. You know what Flako means, don't you? Marcia? What Flako means? Big. Yeah. Okay. Let's stop a minute. Let's talk about that word Flako. The word in Muskogee for horse is what? Flako. And technically, it's chulfako. That's a descriptive word. That means big deer. Chulfako. And the reason that we don't have a specific word for horse, because we didn't have horses. Spanish brought them. We never seen a horse. And so we saw that animal, and the Indians, the people saw each other and said, "What is it?" One of them said, "Looks like a big deer." He's a buffalo. Except it didn't have horns. So that's why they call it chulfako. Now we've shortened it to flako. We say flako. And I know you probably often wondered, why do we say flako? It means big. Well, it's because it was a big deer. So we coined that phrase after the Spanish brought those to us. We talked about this last month. The Muskogee word for cow is what, Kissy? Waka. For those of you that weren't here last week, that's another word that we added. Because before the Spanish, we never saw a cow. We didn't know what a cow was. So what we did is we asked the Spanish, said, "What is that thing?" And the Spanish said, "Vaca." Any of you know Spanish? That's how you say cow in Spanish. Vaca. after that word and say, walk on. Walk on. Okay, we'll move on. Where were we? August. September. It's kind of a hard word to pronounce, but once you've said it a time or two, the word means little chestnut. It's when the chestnuts first start ripening. We don't have chestnuts around here, but back in the southeast, where our language came from, there were chestnut trees all over the place. Chestnuts started ripening in September. And the word for chestnut is odo, or odowoska is the tree that it ripens in, but odo is chestnut. Odowoskoji, remember that oji? Oji means little. Odowoskoji means little chestnut. Let's all say that. Odowoskoji. Odowoskoji. October, that's when chestnuts are in full season. Odowoska taco, big chestnut. Let's all say that word. Odowoska taco. Odowoska taco. Next month is November. I left out, if you got a pen, fill it in. Iholi. Can you all say that? Iholi. Iholi. Notice this says L-E-E. It kind of draws that out a little bit. Lee. Iholi. I'm told that that's an archaic word for frost. Frost month. I forgot to fill that in. A long time ago, that was the word for frost. Iholi. That's the first month that we see frost typically in the southeast. And December, we kind of refer to that when we talk about January. December means big winter. Big winter. Tlafo means winter. Tlako means big. Okay, let's all say it. Tlafo, tlako. Tlafo, tlako. Big winter. Now, let's go back to what I said first. Now you see that how descriptive our language is, very descriptive. I know that some of you grew up, you may not speak the language, but you heard it a lot, and you've heard a lot of the phrases, Mr. Bruner. I know you did. I know you heard a lot of phrases. Casey, a lot of your family. I was over at Jerry's house the other night talking about you, by the way. And had a good visit with him. And Marcia, you know, there's some of us, Jeremy, your grandpa, your grandma, we heard those words, and they meant things, David. They meant things. And I know that we thought, God, that describes something rather than just gives it a name. Like when we say chair, chair means chair. That's all it means. You know, it doesn't mean sit on, like in Muskogee, olegida. Olegida means something to sit on. It's descriptive. Our language is like that. That's what I love about our language, because it's so imaginative. We got a lot of words that don't have names yet because the language isn't evolving with the times. We've got no words for computer. We've got no words for easel. You know, but we got words for things like chair, table, things like that. And once again, descriptive, table, ohomida, which means what? To eat on. Yeah. I just think that I always like to talk about that because it's one of the things I love about our language is descriptive. Okay. Let's move on to the days of the week. Okay? You guys got pens? No? If you do, something I didn't put in here, but I want to make a point of this. First day of the week. That's what we typically say. Tazawoji, but actually that's a condensed word. That's two words in one. The actual word for this is Nita, which means day, Nita. Ajawoji means sacred. Or Ajagi, Nita Jawo means sacred day. The reason we say Uji, little sacred day, is because Nitajaho Hako, which is big sacred day, is reserved for Christmas or green corn New Year. In the traditional world, Nitajaho Hako means the green corn New Year, but in the traditional, in the modern and the Christian language or use of the word, it's Tazaho Hako means Christmas Day. And what it means is the most sacred day, Tazaho Hako. Nitajaho Hako. This is short, Tazawoji, means little sacred day. I put that on Word of the Day about 3 weeks ago, telling what the difference was and why we say that. So let's all say that. Tazawoji. Okay, let's say it. Say it with me. Tazawoji. Tazawoji, that's Sunday. Next word for Monday. Monday is simply the English corruption. We say Monday. Monday, not Monday. We say Monday. Monday. And you see it right there in the phonetics, Monday. Okay, the next word is Tuesday. Monday in Hayaki. Let's all say that. Monday in Hayaki. Say it with me. Monday in Hayaki. Look at the phonetics. Monday in Hayaki. Monday in Hayaki. What that means, once again, descriptively, is the day after Monday, which means Tuesday, day after Monday. The next day, in Nashkaba, there's that R again. In Nashkaba. You have to exercise your tongue to be able to say that. Remember, your tongue goes on the roof of your mouth. In Nashkaba. Look at the phonetics. Oh, I didn't put it. Oh, yes, I did. In Nashkaba. And descriptively, in Nashkaba means its middle. In other words, the possessive form of its, meaning the week's middle. Day, Nashkaba means middle. In Nashkaba, middle day of the week. Here's the next one, is where I forgot to put the phonetics. But in Nashkaba, in Hayaki, we can get that off of Tuesday, have the phonetics, but in Nashkaba, in Hayaki, it's the longest word in here. Let's all say it. In Nashkaba, in Hayaki. And what that simply means is the day after the middle day, or the day after Wednesday. The next word, what letter is it? I said we don't have in the Muskogee language. A while ago I said we didn't need that letter in the Muskogee language. It doesn't appear in the Muskogee language. It makes the sound of sha, sha. So we don't use it like the English what? R. We don't have an R. So any time that we corrupt a word from the English that has an R, we put an L in it. Fly-D. Let's all say it. Fly-D. If you read the Bible very much in Muskogee, when it refers to Jesus Christ, what's it called? Y'all know? Jesus Christ. A-L-I-S-T, Jesus Christ. So there is no R, so that's why that L appears in there for Friday. Friday is simply an English corruption of Friday, but it's an E T-O-N, Friday. Okay, Saturday. Tazamochuzi. Tazamochuzi. Let's all say it. Tazamochuzi. Chuzi, remember a while ago, as we used it earlier, means younger brother. Ijuzi. It means the younger brother of a man. It also means the younger sister of a woman. Same sibling, younger sibling, same sex, means Chuzi. So, Tazabo Chuzi means, Tazabo, remember what we said all about Sunday? Little sacred day? Tazabo Chuzi means Sunday's younger brother, which is the day before Sunday. Those are the days of the week. Any interesting, anything cross your mind that you want to comment anytime, just say so and we'll talk about it. Y'all find that interesting? The descriptions? Okay, then let's move on to the seasons. Unlike the rest of these words, the seasons are just seasons. They're not descriptive. They have their own words. Okay? Spring. Emphasize the H. Da, za, ji, da, za, ji. Let's all say it. Da, za, ji. Look at the phonetics. Da, za, ji. That means spring. Summer. Let's all say it. Say it out loud this time. Ready? What? Miskogee. See how I have two E's on the end? It kind of drags it out. Muskogee. Muskogee. It's summertime. I noticed that a lot of people are starting to name their children after seasons. You know, I heard kids named Muskogee, or even after natural events like rain, Muskogee or Oskiwaski, or things like that. Now, fall's rather unique. In the Muskogee culture, there's only actually 3 seasons. There's spring, summer, and winter. We just consider summer to be long, 6 months long. But if you want to, there's no actual word for fall. There's no fixed term for autumn in Creek. Though, Flavohavo, let's all say it, Flavohavo. Or what it means is when it becomes winter, as we get closer to winter, as winter comes around, it's what that means, Flavohavo. When it becomes winter, may be used. So if you ever see that used and somebody puts Flavohavo, you know they're talking about the fall. But that's not actually a formal word. And finally, winter. I want to hear you pronounce winter. Good job. Flavo. Flavo. I want you to add a word to this. I'm going to spell it for you and write it down. Ready? R-V-R-O. Now pronounce that word.
You want on the beginning or the end of the word?
R-V-R-O. That's the word.
You just want that word right?
Yeah.
Okay. Love.
Okay. Say it a little faster. Love. It's kind of a trick word because if you don't have a trained tongue, it's kind of hard to just say that. But what that means is fish. Love. I seemed like you had a particular interest in that, and we've all heard it. You probably haven't too much, some of you, so that's why I wanted you to learn that word. Love means fish. Now, that's what I had prepared today. Do you all have any comments about today's lesson? I know some of you may be somewhat familiar with it. Joe?
Couple.
how come they caught you lying in August? Big, what is big harvest and, you know?
You know what? The language program calls it harvest. That's not what that means. It's not harvest. It means eat. But I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. This is mine. I know what it means. It means big heat and little heat. But it's an interpretation of somebody's, and I've never heard harvest called hayul.
Even on our calendars, that's weird.
I know, because they're using the language program's definition.
And why did we use Huzzy for month and sun?
Do what?
Why do we use Huzzy for month and sun?
I don't know. I've wondered that. The word for sun is huzzy.
Sun-like.
Yeah. But it also means month. I don't know. Honestly, Joe, I mean, I'm serious. I don't know. I've wondered that myself. And you know what's funny is other cultures refer to the month by the moons. But we refer to it, we call it sun. I see, I'm getting one more month or one more sun, but it would seem like it would be moon. But I don't know, Joe, honestly. It's a good question.
Does this have something to do with time, like we use that word for watch, something like that?
Haziagithka,
Yeah.
to know the sun by, with descriptively, Haziagithka means to know the sun by, which is the word for watch or clock. Haziagithka. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like why that would describe the day. Why would we use that for a sun? But as far as the month, I don't know. You know, I'm like Joe. It seemed like moon would have been more appropriate instead of, Hadisi instead of Hazi. Because the moon changes every month. Turns around.
All right, that's what I had prepared for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll tell you one more little story and we'll cut it off. We talked about the dog and the rabbit hole. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the possum and the raccoon. Possum and raccoon were good friends, just like dog and rabbit were. They went everywhere together. Because they kind of looked like each other. In a sense, they both had about the same size body. And back in those days, possum had a big white bushy tail. Beautiful white bushy tail. Just like the raccoons is big and bushy, possum had a tail just like that. And they were, matter of fact, that's why they were good friends, because no one had big, pretty bushy tails except that crazy squirrel, but these guys were about the same size. So they hung out together all the time, went everywhere together. And so they were just like the dog and the rabbit. They were heading down the road one day, just having a good time, talking. And people, every time they passed somebody, they passed Jackrabbit, he was sitting there and he said, "Coon, you sure got a pretty tail. That rings on that tail, it's sure pretty." But they didn't say nothing to possum. And then the next animal they saw was a deer standing there, and he said, "Coon, you sure got a pretty tail. Got them rings on there like that. Sure is pretty." And pretty soon that possum, he kind of started getting self-conscious about it. And he thought, man, he does have a pretty tail, and everybody keeps complimenting him. I wish my tail was like that. But he let it go. It seemed like everywhere he went, more and more people were complimenting the raccoon. Pretty soon, possum, he just kind of got jealous of that. He finally one day, he said, "Raccoon," he said, "you're my good friend." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Why don't you tell me something? Tell me the truth." He said, "All right. How do you make your tail striped like that?" And of course, raccoon knew that he didn't do it. He was born that way. But he said, "Well, I don't know. I can't tell you." And possum said, "Oh, no, you do know. I know you know. You tell me." Raccoon said, "No, really, I don't know." So possum let it go. Next day, He just couldn't let it go anymore. He said, listen, you better tell me how you did that. Because if you don't, you're holding out on me and you're supposed to be my friend. So Coon thought to himself, he said, I gotta get this guy off my back. I don't know what to do, just lie to him, I guess. So he told Possum, he said, well, tell you the truth. He said, you know, down there by the river, that big old cottonwood tree, big old fat bark on it? He said, yeah. He said, I go down there every day by daylight. He said, I go down there and I whip my tail on that tree, but 80 or 100 times. He said, but it took me a while to do that, but after I did that, a few days, I started getting ring donor from that cottonwood bark. And that possum said, yeah. He said, yeah. So next morning, you know, they went on home. Next morning, the possum got up, he ran down to the river. He seen that big cottonwood tree down there, had a big old bark on it. Boy, he took his big white bushy tail and he whipped it up against her 80 or 100 times. And he noticed he lost some of his hair, but he went back and told him, Coon, he said. And in turn, he said, well, I didn't know what happened in one day. He said, it takes several days. So next morning, Possum went back down there and he whipped his tail on her 80 or 100 times. Lost some more hair. Still didn't make no rings. But he knew what Coon told him. It don't happen in one day. So he did that every day. About a week later, he went down to the river, whipped his tail on that tree, whipped it about 80, 100 times. He turned around, there wasn't no hair on his tail. Everything fell off. He done whipped all the hair off his tail on the cottonwood tree. He went back to that Coon. He said, Coon, he said, you lied to me. He said, no, you wouldn't hear the truth. You wouldn't listen to the truth. He said, I told you I didn't know. So, Possum got mad, got elisky. You know what elisky? He started pouting and he fell over and acted like he was crying, acted like he was dead. But after that, he never was friends with a Coon again. And, you know, I told you every story has a moral. Sometimes you have to take the truth at its face value. When you hear the truth, you have to believe it. And don't keep looking for other answers. And that's the moral to that story. So that's why, to this day, the possum has a bare tail and the Coon has a big fluffy tail. And they're not friends anymore. That's it. I want to thank y'all. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and make this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things. Next month, me and David and Joe will drum this thing up a little more. We'll have more people here, and so with that, I'll thank you. Thank you, Gary.
But Edwin, I want to make a few announcements for sending you guys on your way. First, I want to thank Jeremy for putting this video together. He has all this kind of technology I don't understand, but there are people watching this class as we speak. So not only does he do this class here, he's done other cultural events. He just did the hymn singing that Edwin had put together a couple weeks ago. So it's nice to see a young man doing his part to try to preserve some of our customs. Also, I want to thank my son for coming today and setting up. This is my way of tricking in him to get interested in